They told you to rest more. To be gentle with yourself. To avoid stress. To protect your peace at all costs. So why do you feel tired all the time? Why does the smallest inconvenience irritate you? Why does pressure feel unbearable? Why does life feel heavier, despite all the self-care? Something doesn't add up. Because if self-care was truly making you stronger, you wouldn't feel this fragile. And the Stoics, men who survived exile, slavery, war, disease, and death, would tell you something uncomfortable. Much of what we call self-care today is training weakness. Not intentionally. Not maliciously. But systematically. And in this video, we're going to expose why. Stay with me. Because by the end, you'll understand. Why comfort quietly destroys resilience. Why avoiding discomfort rewires your mind for failure. And what real self-care looks like through Stoic philosophy. This may offend modern culture. But it will strengthen you. Self-care began as something meaningful. It was about recovery. About restoring strength. About keeping the mind sharp and the body capable. But somewhere along the way, it changed. Today, self-care means cancel when things feel hard. Avoid uncomfortable conversations. Escape stress instead of training for it. Call discipline toxicity. Call resistance burnout. The message is subtle, but powerful. If it feels difficult, it must be bad for you. And that idea feels compassionate. But Stoicism asks a dangerous question. What if difficulty is exactly what you need? Because strength, mental or physical, has never been built through ease. Let's be clear about something. Stoicism wasn't written by influencers. It wasn't developed in therapy rooms or comfort cultures. It was forged by men who lived brutal lives. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while battling plague and war. Epictetus was born a slave with a crippled leg. Seneca lived under constant threat of execution. These men didn't have the luxury of emotional fragility. And yet, they were calm. Clear-minded. Grounded. Why? Because Stoicism was never about comfort. It was about capacity. The capacity to endure. The capacity to remain rational under pressure. The capacity to suffer without collapsing internally. This is where modern self-care breaks down. And once you see this, you can never unsee it. Your brain is adaptive. It learns from repetition. Every time you avoid discomfort, your brain records a lesson. I am not capable of handling this. And the brain believes what you repeatedly prove to it. Modern self-care encourages constant retreat. Retreat from stress. Retreat from conflict. Retreat from responsibility. At first, it feels relieving. But relief is not strength, relief is temporary. The Stoics understood something modern psychology now confirms. Avoidance increases sensitivity. The more you run from discomfort, the less tolerance you have for it. Soon, small problems feel massive. Minor stress feels overwhelming. Normal life feels unbearable. And you start asking, why am I so anxious all the time? Stoicism answers calmly. Because you trained for it. Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show what men are. Not things that destroy you. Things that reveal you. But if you've spent years avoiding difficulty, what will be revealed? Fragility. Not because you're weak by nature, but because you were trained to be. Protect your peace sounds wise. But peace that depends on other people behaving correctly. Life going smoothly. No resistance. No confrontation. Is not peace. It's conditional calm. The Stoics never protected peace. They built it internally. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That's a dangerous idea. Because it removes your favorite excuse. It says, your peace is your responsibility. And responsibility is uncomfortable. And now comes the most misunderstood part of Stoicism. The part people always get wrong. Stoicism is not about suffering endlessly. It is not about denying rest. It is not about hating yourself. It's about strategic discomfort. Choosing difficulty on your terms. So life doesn't force it upon you unprepared. Just like lifting weights. The resistance hurts. The rest restores. The adaptation makes you stronger. Modern self-care wants rest without resistance. Stoicism says, earn your rest. Discipline isn't punishment. It's proof that you trust yourself. When you wake up early. When you keep your word. When you do what's hard without applause. You're telling your mind, I am reliable. That creates confidence no affirmation ever will. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Discipline silences imagination. By replacing fear with experience. So far, you've learned something uncomfortable. That modern self-care doesn't build strength. It manages weakness. That avoiding discomfort doesn't heal the mind. It conditions fragility. And that Stoicism was never about comfort. It was about capacity. Now we go deeper. Because if comfort weakens you, what exactly makes you strong? Modern culture confuses two very different things. Feeling good versus being strong. Emotional comfort feels like relief. Emotional strength feels like calm inside pressure. One disappears when life gets hard. The other appears when life gets hard. The Stoics trained emotional strength deliberately. They didn't say, how do I feel better right now? They asked, how do I remain stable no matter what happens? That difference changes everything. The Stoics viewed emotions like weather. You don't control storms. You control whether your house collapses. Modern self-care says, avoid the storm. Stoicism says, build a stronger structure. This is why Stoics practiced exposure. Not reckless suffering. Controlled discomfort. Because emotions lose power when faced directly. One of the most misunderstood Stoic practices is negative visualization. It sounds pessimistic. It's actually liberating. Once a day, Stoics would imagine losing comfort. Losing status. Losing approval. Losing control. Not to depress themselves, but to desensitize fear. Seneca wrote, he robs present ills of their power. Who has perceived their coming beforehand? Modern self-care avoids unpleasant thoughts. Stoicism neutralizes them. And when fear loses its edge, peace becomes permanent, and this leads to something even more uncomfortable. Here's a paradox few people understand. The more you chase pleasure, the less you can tolerate pain. Pleasure and pain are connected. High stimulation lowers resilience. Constant comfort reduces tolerance. This is why small inconveniences feel unbearable. Silence feels uncomfortable. Discipline feels oppressive. The Stoics didn't eliminate pleasure, they limited dependence on it. Because dependence creates fear. Fear of losing comfort. Fear of effort. Fear of struggle. And fear is the opposite of peace, Epictetus said. Freedom is secured not by the fulfilling of desires, but by the removal of desire. That doesn't mean rejecting joy. It means, I am not controlled by what feels good. That is real power. So if modern self-care weakens you, what replaces it? The Stoics had a simple system. 1. Voluntary discomfort. Do hard things when you don't have to. Cold exposure. Physical training. Silence. Focused work not for punishment, but for preparedness. 2. Daily self-examination. Every night, ask. Where did I avoid discomfort? Where did I choose the easy path? Where did I grow? Marcus Aurelius did this daily. So did Seneca. Self-care wasn't indulgence. It was honest self-assessment. 3. Dichotomy of control. Relentlessly separate. What you control. What you don't. Then stop emotional investment in the second category. This alone eliminates most anxiety, and now we reach the most important truth of all: life doesn't become easier. You become steadier. That's the Stoic promise. Problems still happen. Loss still arrives. Chaos still exists. But it no longer shakes you. Because strength creates space. Space between stimulus and reaction. Space between emotion and action. Space between pain and identity, and in that space, peace finally appears. Not because you avoided life, but because you mastered yourself. Modern self-care says, protect yourself from difficulty. Stoicism says, prepare yourself for life. One creates fragility. The other creates freedom. One makes you dependent. The other makes you sovereign. At this point, you may feel uncomfortable. That's good. Because comfort never changed anyone. And now we arrive at the question that decides everything. Who are you becoming through the way you treat yourself? Every action you repeat becomes identity. Not what you say. Not what you believe. What you practice. If your version of self-care is escaping pressure, avoiding responsibility, numbing discomfort, choosing ease over effort, then over time, you don't just feel weaker, you become weaker. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't ask, what feels good today? They asked, what kind of person does this create? Because the mind is always listening. Every time you choose discomfort voluntarily, you are saying, I am capable. Every time you avoid it, you are saying, I am fragile. Identity is built quietly. Daily. Relentlessly, and this is where most people misunderstand self-love. Modern self-love says, accept yourself exactly as you are. Stoic self-love says, respect yourself enough to improve. Acceptance without growth is stagnation. Growth without hatred is wisdom. The Stoics were not harsh. They were honest. They believed the highest form of care was guidance, not indulgence. Seneca wrote, the wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity. That stability comes from earned confidence. Not affirmations. Not comfort. Not avoidance. But proof. Here's the paradox. The more disciplined your life becomes, the calmer your mind becomes. Why? Because chaos creates anxiety. And discipline removes chaos. When you wake up when you say you will, do what needs to be done, face what you want to avoid, speak honestly, act deliberately, your mind stops arguing with itself. There is no guilt. No internal noise. No self-betrayal. Peace isn't found. It's built. An undisciplined life needs constant comfort. A disciplined life needs very little. If you forget everything else in this video, remember this. 1. Care for your body to serve your mind. Sleep. Eat simply. Move daily. Not for pleasure, but for readiness. 2. Care for your mind through resistance. Read difficult things. Sit in silence. Face boredom. Face fear. Face truth. 3. Care for your character above all, because when character is strong, Everything else becomes manageable. This is Stoic self-care. Not soft. Not cruel. But effective. Imagine a life where stress doesn't control you. Opinions don't shake you. Discomfort doesn't scare you. Silence feels peaceful. Hard days don't break you. That life is possible. But it requires a decision. If this video challenged you, that's a sign you're ready for more. Subscribe to the Silent Empire. For Stoic wisdom, mental strength, and philosophies that actually work in the real world. And remember, you don't need an easier life. You need a stronger mind.